Guys, I have a problem. A lot of my decks lean towards the power matter strategy. It's just my favorite strategy, and because I have those biases whenever I'm brewing, they kind of just get baked in there. I will say though, I do try to steer away from that sometimes, and I do want to give you guys a solid variety on the channel, and I think I've achieved that. But if you go down a rabbit hole and you click on maybe 5 random videos, it has occurred to me that maybe 3 out of 5 of those videos are going to be power matters, and they're going to look like they have the same core because honestly, they might have the same core. So I'm aware of that, working on it. I'm trying to veer away from that, and that's exactly what happened with this Noctis deck tech. I built a Noctis deck tech, I looked at it, and I was like, we fucked up. The core is very similar to this power matter strategy that I always lean towards. So I went ahead and did my lore accurate Noctis deck tech instead. But also, this one still slaps. We are using a lot of the cards that we're used to seeing in my brews. We have your Ruthless Technomancers, your Altar of the Wretcheds, but what we're sacrificing looks a lot different. We're sacrificing creatures that have their power equal to the number of artifacts you control, and that's going to allow us to mill, draw, generate a ton of mana whenever we're sacrificing these creatures, and then our plan B is just smash face with some giant artifact creatures. I do think the strategy is pretty unique to the commander, and I built a pretty fun deck that's honestly pretty consistent, so putting it to waste was not something I was going to do, so I pulled you guys, and 11 of you failed, alright? The answer is yes, we always want more Power Matters deck. Joking, of course, but I saw that you guys still wanted to see it, so I'm giving it to you guys today. So as always, click on that whatnot link, claim your $15, get 10% off all of your Tolarian library proxies whenever you use code DT4D, and liking, commenting, and subscribing always helps me out. It's always appreciated, and I will be replying to all the comments in the comment section down below to show my appreciation. Now, let's get into this deck tech. Let's start it off by talking about how we're going to generate these massive creatures. Mechanist, Arsenal, and Nettlecyst are amazing. They're both equipment that enter the battlefield and instantly attach themselves to a token creature. The equipped creature is either going to get +1/+1 for each artifact and enchantment you control, that's Nettlecyst, or the equipped creature is going to get +2/+2 for each artifact you control. That's going to be Mechanist Arsenal. What I like about both of these is you can sacrifice the creature instead of the artifact itself, and then whenever you blink it with something like a Displacer Kitten, that creature is going to come back. So you can kind of just keep sacrificing the creature instead of the artifact, and we don't have to keep casting the artifact from our graveyard, which again loses us 3 life every time we try to do that. Simulacrum Synthesizer is absolutely broken and has a ton of synergy in the deck we're going to talk about. This is a 3 CMC artifact that says when it enters the battlefield, you get a scry 2, and then whenever another artifact with mana value 3 or greater enters the battlefield, you get to create one of those constructs that has its power equal to the amount of artifacts you control. Super busted. Thousand Moon Smithy is a 4 CMC artifact that says whenever Thousand Moon Smithy enters the battlefield, create a white gnome soldier artifact creature token with this creature's power is equal to the number of artifacts and or creatures you control. It also says at the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you may tap 5 untapped artifacts or creatures you control. If you do, transform Thousand Moon Smithy. Then it's actually going to turn itself into a land, but we're going to talk about that land later. We're also on Urza Lord High Artificer. It's 4 CMC. He enters the battlefield. You get one of those 0/0 colorless artifact construct creature tokens that has its power equal to the number of artifacts you control. You can also tap an untapped artifact to add mana, and then it has the ability to pay 5 mana, shuffle your library, then exile the top card. Until end of turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. Pretty useful. We're still on Mendicant here as well. This is a 2 CMC legendary artifact creature robot that says Mendicant Core's power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. So again, he's massive. Then he has that start your engines ability, and then whenever it gets to max speed, it says whenever you cast an artifact spell, you may pay 1. If you do, copy it, which is really good. Phyrexian Metamorph can also enter as a copy of any of the super powerful creatures. Let's talk about the payoffs though. We have Altar of the Wretched, arguably not our best since it only works on non-token creatures, but it allows you to draw X cards and then mill X cards, where X is that creature's power. We also have Ruthless Technomancer, which enters the battlefield, allows you to sack a creature and generate treasure tokens equal to its power. Notably, this is absolutely insane since most of our creatures scale off how many artifacts we control. If we sacrifice a 10/10, generate 10 treasure tokens, let's say we have another creature on the battlefield, that creature now becomes a 20/20 because we just added 10 artifacts to the battlefield. Altar of Dementia can kind of be a payoff, and it additionally can kind of just win us the game. You sacrifice a creature and then you're going to mill cards equal to the creature's power. Again, this can win us the game. We can get rid of our opponent's entire library, or we can just draw X cards essentially since our commander gives us access to our graveyard and kind of just turns it into our hand. hand. Mask of Grizzlebrand is also going to see an inclusion. Not only does this give equipped creature flying and lifelink so it can gain you life to help offset the cost of your commander, it also says whenever the equipped creature dies, you get to pay X life and draw cards equal to that creature's power. Some other creatures of note that are just genuinely massive in this deck, you have Burrowgoyf and Nirdiv. Burrowgoyf's power is going to be equal to the number of card types among cards in all graveyards, and its toughness is going to be equal to that number +1. And then Nirdiv is an insane engine in this deck that says whenever it becomes tapped, you mill cards equal to its power. Additionally, it says whenever you cast a spell from your graveyard or activate an ability from your graveyard, you get to put a 1/1 counter on Nirdiv and draw a card. So it's insane card advantage, and she gets massive, especially when we're casting card after card after card from our graveyard. Alright guys, let's talk about some jank for a second. Let's say we have Displacer Kitten on the battlefield. This allows us to blink a card whenever we cast a non-creature spell. Let's also go ahead and put Archaeomancer on the battlefield as well. It's a human wizard that says whenever it enters the battlefield, you get to return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. Then we're going to have Frantic Search in our graveyard. It's a card that's 3 mana that says draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, and untap 3 lands. This is where I want to talk about Barracks of the Thousand, that flip land we talked about earlier. It allows us to add 1 white to our mana pool and says whenever you cast an artifact or creature spell using mana produced by Barracks of the Thousand, create a white gnome soldier creature token with this creature's power and toughness is each equal to the number of artifacts and or creatures you control. So I think you see where we're going here. We cast an artifact with this spell that's going to allow us to blink our Archaeomancer, returning Frantic Search from our graveyard to our hand. Then we're able to cast Frantic Search to untap our Barracks of the Thousand. This allows us to generate a massive board state. It's not infinite or anything. It can be with a lot more pieces, but at that point, you know, we've entered Rube Goldberg machine territory, but I just thought this was a little fun combo or synergy that I found. Moving on to the core of the deck, we are still running a top combo, but it's not the top combo, if that makes sense. We're going to have Sensei's Dividing Top, Golbez, Crystal Collector, and Aetherflux Reservoir. 2 of those cards you recognize, 1 of them maybe not so much. Golbez says whenever an artifact you control enters, you get to surveil one. That means you look at the top card of your library. If you don't like it or you like it and you want to cast it, you can go ahead and throw it in the graveyard. What's really cool about this is we can cast the top from our graveyard. It's going to trigger Golbez. Then we're going to activate the top's ability to put the top on top and draw a card. And then Golbez surveils top. We put it back into our graveyard. We can cast that with Noctis. This allows us to do the top combo with Aetherflux Reservoir that gains us increasingly more and more life until we shotgun down all of our opponents. I also like Golbez's ability to return a creature card from our graveyard to our hand. Ruthless Necromancer and some other creatures in this deck are pretty important to the strategy, so just having a couple ways to bring them back is definitely welcomed. Black Mage's Rod is also going to make an appearance. This is the one that allows him to ping our opponents whenever we cast a non-creature spell. Since he has lifelink, that basically gets rid of his downside, and we can just cast spells from our graveyard without having to worry about the cost. We're also on Solemnity, so we don't have to worry about the finality counter as well. We don't care about that a ton, but we do care about it a little bit. So whenever we have Solemnity and Kitten on the battlefield, the finality counter BS is just not going to matter. I kind of thought it'd be funny to run Villas here as well. This is an 8 CMC demon with flying that says we can pay 1 black and then we get to pay 2 life, and target creature is going to get -1/-1 until end of turn. It also says whenever you lose life, you get to draw that many cards. So now whenever we're casting an artifact card from our graveyard, we also just draw 3 cards. Pretty insane. I mean, he is 8 mana, but he's definitely worth it in this deck. If you thought the Kitten shenanigans were over, you were wrong. Kitten's going to be amazing with Emry, Lurker of the Lock, and Lightning Greaves. Lightning Greaves is 0 equipped and says equipped creature has haste and shroud. Emry, Lurker of the Lock is 3 CMC and says whenever this card enters the battlefield, you get to mill 4 cards. You can also tap her to cast target artifact card from your graveyard. This is basically a 3-card copy of our commander that mills us again and again and again whenever we cast a card from a graveyard. This can result in us drawing our entire deck, or I guess putting our entire deck in our graveyard. What happens is we cast a card from our graveyard. That's going to trigger our Kitten. Our Kitten then blinks Emry. Do not have Lightning Greaves equipped at this point because that's going to give Emry Shroud, and we will not be able to target her with the Kitten. But as long as Lightning Greaves is not equipped, we blink Emry. Emry allows allows us to mill 4 more cards, and now she's not tapped anymore. Now we can equip the Lightning Greaves, tap her, choose target artifact that we want to be able to cast from our graveyard that turn, unequip the Lightning Greaves, and then cast that artifact, and then boom. We can do that over and over again, especially if we're casting an artifact with 0 CMC, which we don't have any of, but we have cost reducers, so that's kind of the same thing. I'm also keeping in the Ugin synergy with Kitten. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get a blink Ugin that's going to reset him, and you can activate all of his abilities again. His +2 is notably gain 3 life and draw a card that gets rid of our commander's downside outright, and then his +0 allows you to add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool, so he's the mana and the card advantage and gets rid of the downside. I love it. Not to mention he has that broken ability that allows you to exile a permanent whenever you cast a colorless spell. Shirakai Genesis Engine is just going to be solid value, and it's an 8/8 creature whenever we crew it, so it fits with the Power Matters theme as well. Encroaching Mycosynth is also getting an include here. This is the one that pairs amazingly with just the rest of the deck. Now you can cast your Ruthless Technomancers and stuff from the graveyard and your Solemnities, so now your Ruthless Technomancer doesn't even enter in with that finality counter, or you're casting Kitten from your graveyard and you can just blink the Ruthless Technomancer to generate your vast amount of treasure tokens. This deck at the end of the day is just a puzzle to solve. There's a lot of different scenarios you can kind of just get yourself into where you're like, oh wait, if I do this and then I do that and I put this together, I win the game. So if you love solving problems whenever you're playing a deck, this is the deck for you. And honestly, if you're just having a bad day, you can't solve the deck, just smashing face is not a bad idea either. Anyway, I know I've got a particular deck building style when it comes to Power Matters, and this is my take on it whenever it comes to an Esper deck, which I haven't really done very often, so I think it's kind of unique and different, but kind of still my play style, so I definitely am in love with this deck. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments down below. Do you regret being part of that 85%, or are you a part of that 11% that changed their mind? Let me know.